Hey everybody, Christopher Moonlight here, and today I am doing a response video to this how A24 replaced artists with AI, and it's by Paper and Light. I found it to be a well-reasoned video addressing AI, so I'm not responding to this video in a way that I want to attack it. There are just some issues that I see the point of. I don't agree with all of them, and I'm going to address that. But there's also some good stuff in here, some good considerations. So again, this isn't to attack Paper and Light. It seems like they've got a good channel, and they put a lot of thought into this video. So I am a proponent of both AI practical effects and modern visual effects. I don't see anything wrong with any of them, and I'll get more into that as we address this video. Let me just make sure that I am indeed recording. Yep, recording. So let's dive into it.
Movie posters. Compelling, tantalizing works of art. Exciting, vibrant, wild images from the heart. But what about movie posters made with AI?
I don't know if I'll get a copyright strike on that, so I might skip a little bit. So right off the bat, address a couple of things. The movie posters that he was showing, some are modern, some are more old school, painted by hand. A similar debate came up in the age of Photoshop when movie producers and marketing departments discovered that it was faster and cheaper to do a movie poster using Photoshop. A lot of painters, like Drew Struzan, for example, kind of started to fall by the wayside. And people did complain that the posters weren't what they used to be. So this isn't a new thing in terms of a new technology coming along and making a older technology more or less obsolete. Now there are some things to be said about movie posters evolution, but I figure we'll wait and see what he has to say. Like I said, I don't know how he avoids getting copyright struck, but anyway, let's see what he has to say. Oh, one other thing, yes, the Terminator thing. A lot of people like to believe, and this guy is doing it for humor, so I don't think I'm going to count him among them, but there are a lot of people that equate movies like Terminator and Ex Machina and War Games and whatever else where the computer turns bad and takes over, was it iRobot and that sort of thing, with AI. It's simply not how AI operates. AI doesn't have any motivation or incentive. It does not have a will of its own, and it probably never will. I once heard a computer programmer say that the idea that AI will spontaneously become self-aware and take on the will and the complexity of a human brain is sort of like a caveman carving a wheel out of stone and worrying that it's going to spontaneously turn into a Formula One race car and go zooming off. That's the difference in complexity between a conscious mind and what AI does. So, but again, I know he was doing that for humor, and I think he kind of was playing off of that fear. So I fully respect that joke. So let's see what he has to say.
Weeks ago, I decided to catch a Sunday matinee showing of Alex Garland's new film, Civil War. I was very excited about this title. I had been for months, and whenever I know I'm going to see a film, I try not to see any of the trailers, avoid any spoilers, and I managed to get into this one pretty much spoiler-free. I only had a vague idea as to what the movie was actually going to contain. I exited the theater having enjoyed a true cinematic experience. The film was visceral, shocking, disturbing, and thought-provoking. I understand it's caused a bit of controversy with some of its politics, which I think is a sign of some strong storytelling. Garland's script feels well thought out and deliberate in the questions it's asking about journalism and its relationship and role in democracy. That's this Canadian's take anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, just regarding that, not really an AI point, but my understanding was that it didn't really take a side. It was more of what it would be like to live in a war zone one way or another, just using America as an example. Also, people always use democracy for American systems. We're actually a republic. We're not a democracy. So big difference, but just a quibble, nothing to do with AI.
So I posted a story about how much I liked the film, and a fellow cinephile forwarded me a brand new post from A24, the production studio that produced Civil War, and it appeared to contain AI-generated movie posters. This was extremely surprising, especially coming from A24, the most artist-driven, indie film-friendly production studio out there. If this image represents the major film studios, then this image is A24. They got—
Oh, hold on a second. I should have pulled this up before. Who owns A24? Let's see. American Independent Entertainment Company, specialized in films. Let's see. A24 scores. Oh, geez, Variety Con. Yeah, they're worth $2.5 billion, and I believe they were bought by someone. Hold on, let me check this out. Let's pause this. Okay, so my mistake. It's I thought some bigger studio owned A24, but they're evaluated at $2.5 billion, and they've got Goldman Sachs and Co. Advising on the transaction. So they're not so small and indie, although good on them for coming up. I will say this: when you go and you kind of have, you show like these guys. Well, there's not much difference between those guys and this person, whoever they are, in the sense that we're all human beings, and human beings are what make companies, whether it's an indie or corporate. You strip away the human beings, all you've got is buildings and equipment that doesn't do anything on its own, just like AI. The human element is the economic element. Economies are human beings. Excuse me, I'm tripping over my own words. Economies are human beings. Businesses, from the smallest to the most corporate, are human beings. That's what we do. We trade, we tell stories. So, there's, yes, corporate structures and elements can get a little overly bureaucratic, but, I wouldn't put an indie company up on a pedestal, as I kind of feel like is happening here.
They got kicked out of art college, stole kale chips from Costco. In short, A24 would not, could not, should not use AI. And yet they did.
Why shouldn't they? Is my question there. Again, this is kind of getting these preconceived notions that certain people do things one way, other people do things another way. And that if you are doing things one way, that puts you above something else. So why is there a problem with AI? Again, it comes back to a lot of the hyperbole that I see, the idea that AI art is stealing. There are plenty of papers, articles, and videos explaining how AI does not steal. And I have done videos myself about how AI learns through its own brand of observation, through pattern recognition, which is based on how human brains do it. And essentially, if you can claim that an AI is stealing by learning to recreate or create images by studying other images, then any artist anywhere could sue any other artist whose style is remotely the same. But I'm getting off into the weeds. I don't agree with this idea that there's almost kind of like a sense of ownership in it. Not my A24. A24 shouldn't be using these tools, Everybody grows, learns new tools. Nothing can stay the same or else it'd be stagnant. And I do believe that there is a lot of independent spirit in taking on new tools that other people might not be willing to. And the fact that they are an indie studio and they're doing so well means that other people are going to be looking to have a competitive edge over them. And in order for an indie studio to stay indie, they should be able to have that competitive edge as well.
For an Alex Garland film, no less. 10 years ago, he wrote and directed Ex Machina, a film that deals with AI and the potential calamity it's going to bring on humanity.
That's, again, what I was talking about, people equating movies they've seen, Hollywood movies they've seen, with the idea that they can predict the future of what AI will become. This is kind of a fallacy. A lot of people like to point to all the things that science fiction predicted, and therefore they kind of see it almost as a crystal ball into the future. But what they don't talk about is for every one thing that science fiction did get right, there's 1,000 things. If you read a lot of science fiction or see old science fiction movies like I have, you realize there's like 1,000 things to every one thing that they get wrong. So just because someone tells an allegorical story using AI as a theme, it doesn't mean that they themselves believe that AI is a danger. You could get the Terminator future, but you could also get the Star Trek future.
A lot of people believe that total AI usage is an unstoppable inevitability.
It's in your nature to destroy yourselves.
Major drag, huh?
So,
yes, AI usage is an inevitability. It's already happening. But again, to equate it with Terminator right off the bat, to me, that's not really using your imagination. That's just kind of being cynical. People think of AI and they think of the Terminator. I think of AI and I think of all the potential it has to help people who are disabled, either mentally or physically. But I've talked about that in other videos on my channel.
A24 releases these promos with the single comment, "America the Beautiful." The images don't contain any actual scenes from the film, and the fact that they're AI generated is actually pretty easy to spot. The geography of this image makes no sense to anyone who's actually been to Chicago.
Okay, so this kind of reminds me of like the Impressionists or the Surrealists. You can do interpretive images that are not 100% accurate, and people will still, through the broad stroke general recognition of things, get it. And the fact that people realized right away that these are AI, my response to that is cool. It's a new tool, it's a new mode of creating imagery, and it's going to have its tells, just like anything else has its tells. Watercolor, oils, photography, Photoshop, Unreal Engine, Blender. If you interact with these things or engage in material made with these things on a regular basis, you notice, and there's nothing inherently bad about that. And by the way, I should say that this gentleman, he's kind of building up the story of his point of view here. So I'm not arguing with these points in a way that I think that all of them represent his particular feelings. As a matter of fact, he's going to tell us more about his feelings later on in this video. So I'm just addressing the points as they happen. So apologies if anyone thinks that I'm engaging his points as we go as if they're precisely what he believes.
Cars don't usually have 3 doors on one side, and this swan is swole as huge, enormous swan. The comments roll in, and they are largely negative. Hire an actual artist. Absolutely disgusting. Fire the person who approved this garbage. Various unions and guilds within the film industry.
Okay, so just to address some of those, like disgusting. It's like, well, why is it disgusting? Because a lot of people who are anti-AI just are that way because they heard some early hot takes on the internet and that made up their mind. Why should anybody in a marketing department be fired for making the decision to use AI and hire a real artist? Well, you can hire a real artist. Maybe it wasn't in the budget. Maybe they wanted to use AI because it's a new tool and they wanted to push it to see what it can do. It is one of those things where it's, no one owes an artist a living. There's no law saying you have to hire an artist for anything. It depends on the company's needs. And if the needs can be fulfilled by a tool instead of a person, and that tool will get the job done, then the company is incentivized to save money. There's nothing morally wrong with that. It would be morally wrong to tell a company that even though they have a tool that can get the job done for them cheaper, they have to spend more money on an artist who may or may not deliver what they want exactly how they want it. It all comes down to the market. Is that artist in some way more beneficial to the company and worth spending a little more money? Sometimes that artist is good enough where they are. Is the tool itself gonna give them problems where even though it's cheaper, there's more iterations and more time is spent, and ultimately would have been easier to spend a little more money and hire an artist? How is the audience going to respond? I'm not talking about people on the internet with their hot take comments. I'm talking about the audience showing up. Do they want to buy the poster? Do they want to own the poster? Do they want to see the movie? Did they like the image? Most people in the real world, outside of the hot takes of the internet, don't care how an image is made. If they think it's cool, and let's face it, AI makes some really cool images, then they don't care. And the market will decide. If they spend their money and they love it, great. If the AI just seems like crap to them, then they won't spend their money, and the market will correct itself, and they'll stop using AI because it's not benefiting them. Got to pause this for a second to check some messages. Hold on. All right.
Industry went on strike for this very issue, the use of AI in their industry. So it's a little bizarre for a major artist-friendly film studio to do this.
Actually, that is PR. So that's not actually what the strikes were about. And this is something that I addressed on other live streams, and I believe I talked about it on my channel in the past. Not for this particular strike maybe, but there's a video I did with Fee.org Sean Malone on the IATSE potential strikes. So I'll just kind of touch on this really quick. The guilds every so often want to make more demands to get more pay, more people in the writer's room, and unfortunately this is happening in a time that there's a shrinking market. That shrinking market had nothing to do with AI. It had to do with bad stories, IPs being run into the ground by incompetent handlers, and generally the fact that the point of view, I'll say, of the people creating movies was not aligning with their audience, and instead of trying to address that and make content that their audience did like, they decided to fight with their audience, and so their audience, who pays their bills, stopped showing up. The people in the guilds eventually did get what they want in terms of negotiation, but in a shrinking market, that meant a lot of shows got canceled, and so there are a lot of writers, and therefore, by ripple effect, a lot of people in the industry who are out of work. Add that to the fact that it is in a state that is not tax friendly. Everything is more expensive. There are more regulations, thus making it extremely difficult to live in that state. So combine all that together and you kind of have a perfect storm of people not being able to afford to pay their bills. But instead of confronting the fact that the murderer is in the room and it's them, they shifted to blaming something. In the past, it's blaming certain politicians or blaming greedy corporations, or then AI came along and they blamed AI. But it's just another scapegoat for not acknowledging the changes that they need to make to deliver a superior quality product that adds value to their industry and therefore justifies the amount of money they want to make. The problems in Hollywood are economic, and they are born out of economic ignorance and massive egos. AI did not cause this problem. The people developing AI saw that Hollywood had a problem and saw an opportunity to offer a service that could help Hollywood and make the people developing AI make some money. That's just what incentives are. Incentives drive the market. If a company is incentivized to come in and fill a gap in the industry that is ailing, they're going to do that. It's in their best interest to do that, especially when they've spent all this time and money developing these products. Are they going to take over everything in Hollywood? As someone who uses AI regularly, I can tell you no. But it's going to make things a lot more affordable and also create an environment which I think is going to be beneficial to the industry, in which there are fewer people that are needed to work on a project and therefore less bureaucracy. And I think that's going to open up the creative channels and create better content in that respect. But let's go on.
Various articles come out about the posters, along with some tomfoolery in a Netflix documentary, but who cares about that?
Oh, let's address this. Okay, so people are claiming that because they saw in this particular image, and I can't expand it, or maybe I can, I'm just not well versed enough in OBS to do this. So they're saying these are AI generated images because weird stuff was happening with the hands. AI was used in these images, but what they're not telling you is they weren't used to create the images. They were used to take low resolution, small pictures and upscale them. AI driven upscalers use averaging to predict and fill in certain things that just blowing up the photo won't do. So you will get weird aberrations in the hands and stuff. My personal opinion is somebody could have come in after the fact with Photoshop and fixed that up a little bit, but they were moving fast. But it's perfectly reasonable to use AI to, especially when it comes to things like recreations, a lot of history, documentaries, that sort of thing. You want more realistic images of, battles that took place before there were cameras. You might be able to use AI to get you that result, which, fantastic. Why not?
Netflix, from the studio that brought you Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scar Giver. Netflix, no one cares.
Oh, well, let's be fair. It also gave us The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, which was excellent. Gave us the excellent Stranger Things. Gave us my favorite show on there, The Toys That Made Us and The Heroes That Made Us. Okay, we're going to be hit and miss sometimes, Zack Snyder, Rebel Moon, yeah, that wasn't a very good one. Matter of fact, that was awful.
But we're talking about A24, the film studio that brought you Moonlight, Hereditary, and EEAAO.
I'm not saying A24 doesn't make good movies. They do. But they also make a lot of movies that a lot of people don't care about, which is why they have to keep things lower budget. I'm not a fan of A24 movies, nor am I the kind of, what's the word? I don't know. I just can't put them on the pedestal that a lot of people do. I think they're doing interesting stuff. It's not for me. But I also don't think it's largely as amazing as people say. I think there's some hits, some real special moments, just like with any studio. But that doesn't make them above producing things that are mediocre at best.
They shouldn't have done this. No. Was it a joke? Some sort of commentary? According to the article in The Hollywood Reporter,
commentary is possible. Now, I know that they didn't say anything about this. He's going to say that. But, we're talking about a story of media. And So we already know that the media has tried using AI images to pull the wool over the eyes of people on the internet or even on mainstream outlets. So, it could be one of those things where you get to decide. And this is a big thing about art that I believe, especially in storytelling. You don't tell the audience what to think. You leave it open for them to interpret. There may be something ironic or prophetic about AI images being used to create these posters, especially given the fact that they do have glaring things that you would never see, like giant swans, which I actually think was very compelling and interesting.
A source close to the movie said the images help imagine the nationwide impact of the film's fictional war. These are AI images inspired by the movie. The entire movie is a big what if, and so we wanted to continue that thought on social. Powerful imagery of iconic landmarks with that dystopian realism. So I'm sure A24 has learned by now that powerful imagery and AI generated don't really go together. Most people can...
Do they not? I mean, again, that's a very subjective thing to say. And even though there are people mad about it on the internet, and people can tell that they're AI, there's, like I said, they're the AI tells, but that doesn't stop these images from being compelling or interesting to look at. And honestly, the fact that they are AI creates aberrations that we wouldn't otherwise get. And are these aberrations wrong or bad? No, they're new. And there are a lot of people, say, I don't know what it is, but it's new and I don't like it. It's like, okay, let's see what it does. And it's in its early stages of development as well. So, the people who are going to pick up those tools and use them to start when they're not fully developed and we haven't come up with new ways of approaching them because, it's new, they're taking a risk. They're pushing the envelope. Things can't always stay the same. And if you want them to stay the same, the only way you can accomplish that is to kind of be an authoritarian, put a ban hammer down on everything new, and then where do we go from there? Pretty much nowhere.
Consider it to be low effort, low quality work. If you're not up on your AI image generators, it's incredibly easy to make a poster like this.
I can't remember if he addresses this or not later on as part of his point. Like I said, he does come around with some fair rebuttals to his own argument, but to me, the amount of effort put into something does not constitute whether it's good or bad. Ultimately, it's how does the audience emotionally respond to it. And, like I said, sometimes, I've seen paintings or ink drawings done in a few brushstrokes that are absolutely beautiful. And I've seen people put amazing amounts of detail into pictures that ended up being utter garbage. So again, he may come around to this point. I can't remember. So let's see.
Demonstrate, I'm going to create a poster for A24's inevitable sequel, Civil War II: Conflict in Canada. Little did they know, the real fighting was happening up north.
We watch the news. We know what's going on in Canada.
Mid-Journey here. Okay, so I'm here in Mid-Journey, Vancouver, battle, Civil War. And instead of a giant swan, we're gonna go giant Canada goose in the style of a modern movie poster. Okay, there it is. I think we've got it. Wow.
Honestly, I love it. And again, it happened easy, but it's great, It's not going to be appropriate for everything that we do.
Okay, I'm just gonna put the text on here. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, so let's upload this to Instagram and wait for the hate. So we know that AI tools are easy and fast, which means movie studios are gonna wanna use them more and more. Also,
By the way, the fact that he acknowledges wait for the hate, I mean, that shows that he is paying attention to how histrionic people can get over this stuff as well. So, again, maybe I'm coming off as I'm arguing with him a bit too much. I do see that, I did say, and I do see that he's trying to be very fair about this, which I very much appreciate.
So AI image generation is baked into a lot of editing software now. When I make my thumbnails for YouTube, I often have to take text off of movie posters. I've been using Photoshop for years so I can mask and clone tool my way through it pretty well, but now there's an AI tool that can generate an image automatically, and the result is often better than what I was able to do manually. It is okay to be scared about this, particularly if you're an artist. But what is the answer? How do we prevail over AI artwork?
Okay, so this is something I would say. Is it okay to be scared? I don't actually agree with that statement. I think, and we was just showing clips from Dune. There's the litany against fear. Fear is the mind killer. And that's exactly what's happening here. People are getting themselves worked up and freaked out over what's happening. And they're not thinking about how they could evolve to match it, either by being reactionary in the same way that people were reactionary to photography. The portrait painting and oil painting was big business before the invention of the camera, and that all went away. But out of that, we got evolutions in art, such as the Impressionists, the Surrealists, a lot more stylized stuff, and our culture evolved because of it, and that was a wonderful thing. And raging against it is just, again, you can't rage against something without insisting that there are regulations, new laws, and that involves granting powers to individuals who may or may not understand how these things work, and end up over-regulating and squashing innovation to the detriment of everybody. So I think that it's okay to be apprehensive, but then you have to kind of put your big boy pants on, or your big girl pants on, whatever it is, and start thinking, okay, the world is changing as it always has. It's never been stagnant. Who am I to think that the world needs to rearrange itself to accommodate me? That the market needs to rearrange itself to accommodate me? The people that I see most afraid of this are people who have been top artists for a long time, who are worried that their position in the hierarchy is going to be threatened by newcomers with new tools. And yes, no, maybe so. I think if you're established, there are always going to be collectors and people who want the hand drawn or painted touch. I don't think AI is going to take over everything, because AI, like all other tools, it has its markers, and sometimes they're appropriate and sometimes they're not. Fighting AI, quashing AI, again, you're not fighting anything other than a free market where everyone has a right to ply their trade and see if they can make something of themselves, and stake out their own little claim in the world of art or storytelling or whatever the market may be.
In my opinion, the best tool we have is critique. When you see artwork or hear music, whether it's AI generated, made on a computer, or penciled in by hand on paper, critique it. Assess its merits. Good art makes you feel. So does this? The amount of time it took to make doesn't automatically make it bad or great.
Okay, so he did address that point. I thought I remembered that. Yes. I'm going to comment on this idea of critique, but let him finish.
Nor does the simplicity or complexity of the work. It's the aesthetics, intent, and execution that are key. If you feel that using AI means the execution is bad, you're right. If an AI-generated song that your friend wrote about you makes you cry, you're also right.
Gone his hair, gone. He clung to the walls where his stars still seem to linger.
Platinum dad joke. I love it. So let's talk about critique, though. You just kind of, well, we'll let him finish that joke. But I want to say something about critique. So this is an invitation for the public court of opinion, which the internet has become. Critique is about, what is it? Somebody once said to me, opinions are like wrinkles. Every asshole has them. It is, the market is what really critiques it. If you like something, or if the audience at large likes something and they're attracted to it, it doesn't matter how much you scream at them that it's crap. A matter of fact, they might look at you like, I mean, are you crazy? Like, why? Like, everyone's having a good time. Why do we have to stop and listen to you complain about how much you hate AI because you're threatened by it in some way, or you feel like you're some sort of authority on it or some way, and that sort of thing. Everybody that puts themselves out in the public square gets critiqued to one degree or another, but it also, in the sense of the anti-AI people, you're just inviting them to use it as a bludgeon. And I don't think that's constructive or helpful at all. Sorry for freeze framing on that pose, by the way. I hope that doesn't bother you too much. The joke really is great.
Memories they fade.
By the way, that sounded awesome. And this is the thing about it. This is the thing that bothers a lot of people about AI the most who are in the creative industry. It does create good images. It does create good music. It does create things that are useful. Can we use them on their own? I don't recommend that, because ultimately the result is just going to be a glut of things that end up kind of being exactly what they are, just too much AI. But you can use it to create elements, and then you as a human being assert yourself, whether it be through curation or applying your artistic skills on top of it. That is where we come in, and where we will always come in.
If you think that A24 should have hired a real artist for these images, tell them.
No. Don't tell them. Just, if you don't like it, just move on. Don't spend your money, because they'll feel that a lot more. Again, because of like what I've heard referred to as the 12 psychos on Twitter, it's a vocal minority who, has literally driven people to kill themselves. Again, I don't invite this. It's not going to stop people from always giving their opinion if they really feel they need to. But honestly, I feel like there's a little bit of a arrested development there. Adults should be a little more stoic about these things. If you don't like it, just don't spend your money. If other people do like it, they will spend their money. If you happen to be on the side of the people who aren't spending their money, and there's enough of you, then they'll feel that in their pocketbook and they'll change strategies. But if it resonates with people, you shouldn't be out there trying to cut them down, because you might be attacking something that you don't fully understand, and again, repressing something that might really develop into something wonderful. So I am, like I said, people are going to do what they want, but it's not the answer, in my opinion.
If you think the real artists that A24 hired to make movie posters in the past were great, tell them. If you think that some of their movie posters are a little weird, tell them. Critique it all. We're surrounded by design decisions, and they're not all good. That's what I'm trying to do with this channel anyway. Critique every movie poster. Celebrate the triumphs and call out the mediocre and the mundane. Whew. Well, typically for these episodes, I do some sort of giveaway.
Okay, so that's it. So I'm going to kind of collect my thoughts for a moment. So I'm going to pause this and but it'll just be a moment in time for you. Well, that was a lot longer video than I hoped, but I did have time to collect my thoughts as I was also tending to one of my children dropping something on their ankle. But anyway, yeah, so ultimately, yes, like I was saying, there would be critique anywhere you go, especially on the internet. But the difference in critique is this. If you see something that is done in Photoshop but done well, then anyone can like it based on its merits. If something is not done well in Photoshop, you don't blame all of Photoshop, or you don't say Photoshop is crap. You, again, critique on the merits of the person using the tool and how they use it. I fully believe that AI can be pushed in ways that we haven't yet thought of and do amazing things, or if just left to do its stock standard thing, we'll just create image after image that is around the same, and even if it's cool to start, we'll get tired of it. The human condition is to push these tools. But yeah, if you start saying, if you see critique as telling people what tools they are or aren't allowed to use, that's not critique, that's persecution. So don't do that. And that is really my feeling on it. But you know what? We should look at what his giveaway is.
Related to the movie I'm talking about, but in this case, Civil War is still in theaters. There's no physical media yet. So I've decided to give away a 4K Blu-ray copy of the 1990 Kevin Bacon classic, Tremors. Why? Because life is short, the robots are coming, AI's gonna take over, so why not unplug your streaming services, throw this bad boy in, and change your life? If you haven't seen Tremors, you've made a mistake. Check.
Alright, so I have seen Tremors many times. I consider it a perfect movie. And the special effects team behind it, Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff Jr.'s Studio ADI, is a company that I got to work for. They are amazingly talented, and as I said at the beginning of this video, I am a huge practical effects proponent. And you might ask yourself, why is a practical effects proponent championing, thank you, I'll get that word right. Why is he doing that? Why is he championing AI? And it is because AI is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Even though it's in the creative sphere, it's doing a lot of heavy lifting for creatives that would take up a lot of our times, freeing us up to be more creative. My personal project at the moment, I made a practical effects horror movie called The Quantum Terror. It's streaming on Tubi, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, and a bunch of other video on demand services, Filmz, Plex, bunch of them. That was an all practical effects film with some digital compositing in After Effects. Why did I not make it fully 100% practical effects? Well, I couldn't afford the sets. I couldn't afford some of the things that the compositing could do to enhance what I do as an artist and to expand the scope of the story I wanted to tell. AI is now doing the same thing for my newest project, Escape from Planet Omega 12. I wanted to do a combination of animation and practical effects, miniatures, and puppets, which I'm working on right now. I'm really excited about it. I'm posting about it on my YouTube channel. But I'm also using AI for a lot of the animation because I don't have the money, never had the money to pay animators. But I did have the money to pay artists on this project because the full scope of doing this pre-AI would have been too expensive. But because AI is doing that heavy lifting and freeing up a lot of resources, I can now pay other artists to do things. I can pay a practical effects artist, my friend Jenna Green. I can pay VFX artists who are helping me with 3D rigging that I will use with the AI. That is Chris Young and Clint Carney, two very talented artists. I've hired other artists. I've hired Val Merrick to do a hand painted poster in a comic book style. I was able to pay them because this project got the go-ahead from me being able to use AI. If I was not able to use AI, there'd be no project and no one would have got hired or paid at all. So it's going to free up a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't have had the resources to pay anybody, and therefore these projects would have never happened, to go out into the market and compete with those big studios. So it's not just the big studios using them, it's people like me. And we're going to start seeing a lot more innovation, a lot more stories told from outside the sphere of the big studios like A24. I mean, A24, I don't mean A24 is a big studio, although they $2.5 billion. I wish I was worth that much. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you for watching, and thank you to Paper and Light for making this video. I do believe he is trying to be very level-headed and reasoned about this subject matter, which I appreciate, and that allows me to come in and state my point of view in a reasoned way. I think these conversations need to happen, and they need to be conversations. It's not we need to have a conversation about, where it really means you're going to sit there and I'm going to lecture you. No, real conversations, so we can get to the bottom of what the truth is, and we can use that to move forward and create wonderful things. And again, I'm not familiar with his channel overall, Paper and Light. Go check it out. He says he's doing critiques. I'll finish with this. A critique is a good thing, again, but a critique is made with the intention of highlighting things that can be improved so the person creating the art can get better. And however they choose to get better, whether it's using AI or paint or photography or Photoshop, whatever it is, that's up to them. If the audience responds to it, great, but we can't tell people that they can't get better by using certain tools, like they're not allowed to take that path. We choose our own path. Other people will choose theirs, and as a result, we'll all get unexpected things that we never dreamed existed or are possible. And there's a real joy in that discovery of seeing what other people do. So again, critique, yes, for the sake of improvement, not for the sake of policing what tools people can use. But thank you to Paper and Light, and thank you for watching. And thank you to my dog for barking at the end of the video. Have a good one. Oh yeah, like and subscribe. Bye.